Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Tina, holistic brain health practitioner at Lifelong Enerjoy. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the scarcity trap. And the reason why this is really important is because a lot of times if we feel like we're in lack mode, and I know that well, I've been in lack mode most of my life, you get into this state of scarcity, which becomes very hard to get out of. So it's called the scarcity trap, and it's for a reason, right? And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why people get into that trap and how to get out of it, okay? So the scarcity trap does not just apply to money. It can apply to not having enough time. It can apply to not having enough of anything. So it could be time or money or support or having enough friends or anything like that, right? It even can be applied to a drug if you are addicted and you feel like you need that hit, right? And what's fascinating about the idea of the scarcity trap is that if we get caught in this state of lack, of feeling like we don't have enough of something, what happens is that our vision becomes tunneled, and all we do, because it's sort of this is the way humans are built, is that we go into this survival instinct of how am I going to get that next thing, whether it's money or time or friends or support or your drug, right? And what happens is that our brains go from being able to think and problem solve in a more holistic way to getting very tunneled and focused on just getting that next thing that we need, okay? And there's this common belief system, for example, with people who are poor that, oh yeah, they make bad decisions. Well, here's the thing, is that they may be making bad decisions, but if you put any of us, regardless of how much money we made, in a situation, in that same situation of poverty, where we have no support or no belief that we can attract more money, in a feasible way, we're going to also lose our ability to think clearly, okay, and to really see our problem at a much bigger level, okay. And how do I know this? Well, interestingly enough, there's some research to back up what I've just said. So, for example, and you can't just like take a group of people and say, okay, I'm going to give you lots of money, tons of money, and then take it all away, right? You can't just do that, right? So there's a really fascinating natural experiment that has occurred in India. And in India, every year, there are sugarcane farmers. And these sugarcane farmers get paid only one time a year, just one time a year. So that means that, and they get paid after harvest. So that means that during the entire year, they are lacking, or they have different amounts of money depending on the time of year, right? So right before harvest, they become very poor because they're the end of whatever windfall that they've gotten after harvest, right? And then harvest comes and they have all this money. And so what happens to these people's brains before harvest when they're poor and after harvest when they're rich? Well, some scientists from Harvard and Princeton went and studied this group of people and found out that they had literally a change in cognitive functioning equivalent to about 10 IQ points, okay? So what they have, when you're able to do problem solving, it's called fluid intelligence, where you can sort of see the big picture and really make good decisions about what to do with your life. That's called fluid intelligence. And that's what they were losing with that lack of, without that cushion underneath. And when they were desperate for money, they lacked fluid intelligence. So again, their brains became so tunneled and so focused on what they needed that they weren't able to make bigger or better decisions about long-term financial health. And so that has like a myriad of consequences. For example, if somebody is, there's a lot of stories. I actually got a lot of this information from Shankar Vedantam's Hidden Brain podcast. He has a wonderful episode on this. And there's some great stories of people who, when they're in that mode of lack, they make decisions that are just based on getting that next thing. So, for example, if you're, they talked about one person who who had, you know, a fine job and then just had a series of losses where she became really impoverished and she had to feed her children. And so when she got money, when she got a credit card, she spent it all on groceries and things that she needed in the long term, but then she ran out of money for gas, right? So because she had not been able to see the big picture, she was just so hyper-focused on getting those things that she hadn't had for her kids, right? So that's what can happen when we have that tunnel vision. Another example, Barbara Enright talks about this in her book, Nickel and Dimed Across America, where she had put herself in an impoverished situation where she tried to survive on only a minimum wage and minimum wage jobs. And she found that when you're stuck in that mindset of poverty, all you can think about is getting a roof over your head and the next, you know, groceries, food on the table, right? And so because she struggled to save enough under those poverty conditions, she would have to think about living in a hotel. And living in a hotel is in the long run much more expensive, but it allows you to pay on a short-term basis, right? So there are all these benefits that we have when we have more money that we don't think about, that people don't have when they're in poverty. Payday loans. People in poverty can be subject to payday loans with high interest rates that maybe the rest of us can avoid if we have a cushion underneath our belt, right? So there's all these choices that we're sort of forced into based on poverty as well, and then coupled with the lack of the loss of fluid intelligence that happens. So our brains literally get changed by the scarcity trap, okay? And that's some great examples. But that can also happen not only with money, but also with time, right? And so if you don't have enough money or enough time, you can make decisions about, and you've probably all experienced this, you may be so focused on getting things done off your list that you may not be able to get your longer term projects done, right? I've definitely struggled with that, right? And so you have to be able to shift your priorities, and that has to come with a belief that you do have the time to create what you need, right? And so we all have that same amount of time, but some people seem to be able to get a lot more done and feel like they have a lot more time than others, right? And so what is that about, right? So same thing with loneliness. I had a client who just felt incredibly lonely, and amazingly enough, just releasing barriers, changing that mindset has allowed her to attract all kinds of new people into her life and feel very connected. So what is the key? What's the key to getting out of that scarcity trap? I just hinted at it, and it is changing what's in here, right? Changing those negative belief systems, because believe it or not, you might have heard me say this before, but the law of attraction works. If we believe that we have no time, then that's what we're going to manifest. If we believe that we have no money or that we're not going to attract anything in our life, that's what we're going to manifest. And if we believe we have no friends, that's what we're going to manifest, okay? And the reason why that occurs, you know, we can think about that from the perspective of the Western medical mindset of like, oh, your reticular activating system, which is the part in your brain that decides on what to focus on, will focus on your beliefs, whatever your beliefs are, to reinforce your beliefs, right? And so because your brain is focusing on what you want to, what you need to reinforce your beliefs, you keep reinforcing those beliefs. We're very tied to our beliefs, right? But there's also the quantum physics level, which things seem to happen at a level that's much greater than what's going on in our brain. And I have to say that, you know, as a scientist, I've been very skeptical about it, but now I have seen such differences. I just can't even object to the whole quantum physics thing, because I have seen in my life and in my client's life repeatedly over and over again that releasing, changing our mindset, changing our vibration around what we believe. Hey, Josh, thanks for joining me. What we believe, whether it's our emotions. Hey, Diana, nice to see you. What we believe, we manifest, right? And so I've seen this over and over again, and I can tell you so many stories. I remember, and I mentioned earlier that I've been in lack mode for most of my life, right? And so what's fascinating is I have this cool program that's associated with the method I use called the Body Code, and it's about abundance, and we can assess abundance, right? And so if you're interested in doing this, if you're interested in getting your abundance assessed, you can give me a call or sign up for a 20-minute consult, and I'll put a link below. But what we can do, it's really cool. If you feel like you're always in lack mode, like you're always lacking stuff, I can actually assess that, and we can determine what percentage lack mode you're in, believe it or not. So I was actually in 93% lack mode most of my life. That's not good at all. And so of course I was not attracting anything I wanted, right? And it made sense given my upbringing. It was a pretty harsh upbringing, and I didn't get what I wanted. And so that's how I believed that, what would happen to me, and that's what I manifested, unfortunately. The good thing is that you can also have, so on the other side of that, there's an abundance mode, and you can have a very high abundance mode. And I just assessed somebody recently who has 90% abundance mode, and what she was telling me was that she always gets, like, she's like, I've always had enough money, and I seem to, like, be able to charge clients without doing any work. And I was like, oh my goodness, and I've also, I have another friend who's just like, she's not stressed about money at all. She's like, I always attract what I want, and I was like, whoa, what a lifestyle, right? What a difference, right? But it's possible. So these people have very high abundance modes, right? And so what we can do is we can measure your lack mode, your abundance mode, and your stagnant mode. And those should all add up to being 100%, right? And so I can measure that for you and give you a sense of where you're at. Another thing that we can actually look at is how aligned you are with what you want in your life, right? So we put together this statement of like how much money you want to make per month or per week or per year, and doing what, and with or without, or I'm sorry, with hobbies or with the lifestyle that you want, and then we'll look at how aligned you are with that. So we can do that as well. Okay, so I'm willing to offer that free little mini assessment for anybody who wants that. Okay, and so in addition to doing that, what we can do is we can start to release those negative beliefs. We can start to release the negative emotions, the feelings of sabotage, or whatever are getting in our way. Post-hypnotic suggestions, those are messages we get from the universe. Whatever that's getting in the way of your ability to manifest or attract what you want in life, we can get rid of. So we get rid of negative beliefs. We get rid of anything that gets in the way of positive beliefs. We get rid of emotions that are getting in the way, and we can release barriers to getting you 100% in alignment with what you want. Okay, and there may be several steps to this. Maybe you have to, maybe you want to have a business and you don't know what you need to do. So we may have to release barriers to helping you figure out what you want in your business, right? So it may not be a one-step process, but it may be depending on who you are and where you're at. All right. But regardless, I've helped clients in sometimes just one session. If you have a business, the change can happen pretty fast. So I've helped release barriers so that clients can raise their prices to a level that's commensurate with their experience and their worth and their value, or even see their worth and their value. I've helped a client, for example, who was always overworking. She'd take care of everything for everybody. And never had enough time for herself. And so what we did was we released barriers so that she could start to give herself the time she needed for self-care. And she was able to cut back from working 5 days a week to 4 days a week, and to do the things, all the personal things that she really wanted to do. So go basically from full-time to a semi-retired state, and her quality of life skyrocketed. I mentioned earlier that I've also helped clients who have felt lonely start to attract people and feel abundant in that way. Same thing we can do with support, helping you feel supported. That can change drastically. And all these things have changed quite a bit in my life as well as a result of doing this work. So, so there's so much that can be done. And if you change it at the mindset level, your life can change, all right? So I'm a big fan of getting rid of that lack mindset, getting rid of that scarcity trap and doing whatever you can to do it. And the fastest way to do that is not to work harder at either, you know, getting more friends or making more money, but releasing the negative belief systems that are contributing, releasing the negative belief systems and energy and vibration that was contributing to those problems in the first place. So if you're interested, if you want to know more about how to get into that abundance mindset, do a little mini assessment with me. That costs you nothing and just a little bit of time. And I think you'll find it fascinating. And I can tell you a little bit more about how we can help you manifest the life you want. All right? So thank you for joining me. Vera, thanks for joining me. And it was so nice to see all of you. Take care. And if you know anybody that needs to get out of the scarcity trap, needs more time, money, anything in their lives, please share this video with them. And I'd be glad to help them in any way I can. And thank you for joining me. Take care and wishing you all the abundance in the world. Take care. Bye.